You are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Derek Kinsey Jr. Welcoming you to a lap of extra mile for today, February 29th, 2024. And we have a lot to get to, and I'm just going to go ahead and get with it. Let's bring in our co-hosts, Christopher Lehman, Michael Ward.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Good afternoon.
Thank you all.
Good evening, Michael.
Good afternoon.
Good evening, Michael.
I think that's his story. That's his story, and he's sticking with it. Hey, if you're listening live, make sure to get your comments in. We'll read them as the show goes on. As Taryn Rodriguez just said, that Atlanta race was absolutely epic, and that is where we're going to get started tonight. Also on the show, we do have an update in the situation involving Christian Horner and a manufacturer maybe making the jump from IndyCar to NASCAR in 2027. We're going to talk about all of that and more on today's episode, and we're going to get started. We did have some Formula One practice. We'll get to that a little bit later, but we're going to start with the Am Better Health 400 on Sunday, which, guys, I think not only was that the best race of the new Atlanta configuration, I think that was the best super speedway race we've had in the last 5 years.
It was epic, and I mean that's really about all. That's just the best word to encompass what happened. It was a great race with an all-time finish. It was a buzzer beater. I mean, in the final four, in the championship game of March Madness, it was a last-minute kick in overtime to win the Super Bowl. I mean, that was just absolutely epic, the way that race ended.
I look back at that race, and coming into that, there was a whole lot of conversation about the super speedway package and how well it ran and whether or not this new fuel saving thing will be an issue going forward. But I don't think there was much fuel saving going on at all, Michael. That from the word go, they were getting after it, sometimes a little bit too hard, which we'll talk about here in a minute.
Yeah, from the green flag, they definitely seemed to amp up the racing. It was tight racing all the way through, and I'm not sure if this is just because of the track configuration, but it was definitely one of those races where your eyes were definitely glued to the screen, just seeing these guys jockey for position, and it makes for some really amazing racing.
Yeah, but then unfortunately we did have the 16-car kerfuffle on lap 2, which both 2311 cars got involved in. And first, poor Tyler Reddick, the last couple of years, has had the worst 4-race stretch completely composed of the first 2 races of the season. Because he crashed out in Daytona last year and then rebounded from that by crashing out in California. This year, crashes out in the Daytona 500, follows that up by getting crashed in lap 2 of Atlanta, and just an ill-advised move by Todd Gilliland trying to play the teammate game. Ends up stacking up 16 cars, but Chris, once they got that out of their system, they went crazy.
Yeah, I went crazy on lap 2 when Bowman's race was ended.
I'm sorry, and I picked Bowman to win, so I was not happy.
Yeah, no, I was not a fan of Gilliland's for the rest of the day. That it was just a goofy thing to do on lap 2. Like, come on, man, really? But that team was just on a mission to wreck cars. Like, McDowell came. Was it McDowell? Yeah, it was McDowell that took out William Byron coming into the pits. I mean, these guys were just wild on Sunday.
Yeah, I can understand trying to play the team game, but it's way, way, way too early to try to play the team game.
It was lap 2.
Yeah.
My goodness. The cars weren't even up to speed.
Tires weren't even warmed up yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I
look,
mean, at least my race ended early.
they got that tier one partnership, I believe, with Penske. No, RFK. Sorry, and they didn't know how to act these last two races, and McDowell ended up finishing eighth. Gillen ended up down the order, but we're gonna skip ahead in the story to those last couple of laps. A three wide finish decided by 7/1000ths of a second. The comparisons to the Cars movie have been done to death, but that was something out of a movie. And I was sitting down there watching it with Miriam and jumped off the couch. I'm like, is this really how this race is going to finish? Like, it was an incredible way to end that race.
Especially
You
after
ever
last week. I mean,
know?
different circumstances, but such a close finish.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I was just when that happened, I was like, oh God, they better rule this thing quick and they better have I think they learned something after last week. Because
Mm-hmm.
last
Yeah.
week people were not very happy that it took an hour for them to release like, hey, this is the photo we used. And this week they were quick on it. I mean, it was within what do you guys think, 45 seconds where they determined who it was and put the graphic up?
It also helped that it wasn't under yellow and they had to go through their yellow procedure. It was just at the start finish line what the cameras say. And Jen B, who you may be hearing from on this show a lot more in the future, says that finish was insane. It absolutely was. And I think I went back and watched it on about 4 or 5 times. Ryan Blaney and Kyle Busch came to side by side down the backstretch, heading to turn 3 and 4, and Daniel Suarez making it work around the outside, making it three wide coming to the checkered flag, and Suarez on the outside picks up a win. He's in the playoffs, and after how terribly last year went for Suarez,
Yeah,
he needed that win, I think, in the worst way.
yeah. I don't know who said it earlier this year, but somebody, I don't know who said it, Daryl or Chris, or maybe it was me, said that he needed to get a move on now, or else he's cooked. And I guess he took that personally.
There's been a lot of conversation about Suarez and whether or not he's going to leave that, get punted out of that seat. But it's like, why would he? Pitbull owns that car, but he's feeling the pressure because he's carrying all of Latin America on his back every time he gets in the car. So I think that makes sense.
Yeah, but I guess he took it personally and got a win right off rip. So.
Chris, what do you think of Suarez? He got off the schneid pretty early this year.
Yeah, and that's really good for him. He definitely needed that win for his confidence and for the team's confidence and um you know it's also great seeing like for I saw that in the one of the bigger publications in Mexico, he made the front page of their newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about great exposure and globally. We look at just over the past couple months in NASCAR, you've had Shane Van Gisbergen win from Australia and New Zealand. We'll kind of clump those together because they're just right there. But you got that corner of the world. And I don't know if you guys were following along on Sunday, um, but the Ample Red Bull team, which is where Shane was racing in Australian supercars, they were watching on their phones and they were posting, like the actual team was posting, about SVG during the race. They were watching their race. They were watching SVG because obviously he raced on Saturday. So tying that back in with Daniel Suarez is you've got Mexico and I don't want to say all of Central America as a whole, but that's their guy. That is who they see themselves as. So I think it's great for exposure. Globally, also very happy for Team Trackhouse for Daniel Suarez. I think that it was great for exposure and kind of showing what NASCAR is working towards becoming image wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a great win. Great to see Suarez win after he went back in LA and won in his own old stomping grounds, the NASCAR Mexico Series back at the Clash. Gets his first win in the Cup Series since 2022 and is now on his way to the playoffs. But one driver that is off to a hot start. There's several of those, and one of them that is on the hottest start. Bubba Wallace, 2 fifth-place finishes. The only driver with not only 2 top 10 finishes to start this season. Both of them are top 5s in 5th. Unfortunately, both times pit road snafu kind of cost him a chance at a higher finish. Last week it was the issue with last week was the issue with the fuel. On Sunday he caught a speeding penalty, but that was far enough into the race where he could recover from that, and that car looked pretty sporty all day. And the Toyotas in general, they don't qualify well at super speedways, but they race. That knows it for some reason. In race trim, they are nimble cars.
It definitely appears so. I definitely think they have, I don't want to say a certain advantage, but they do appear a bit more nimble than most cars on the super speedway. So I think they can definitely possibly use that as their advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Also, having more cars together is also another big advantage.
And the one thing, and as you look at the schedule, focusing on Bubba Wallace, and currently he's 4th in the points. You have the 2 super speedway races that we always know he's going to be a threat to win at one of those. We're going into Las Vegas, which is a similar track to Kansas, and we know how good 2311 is at those type of circuits. They pretty much own Kansas. In Las Vegas, they've run well. Bubba is setting himself up for a good little 3-race stretch to start the season before he gets into some tracks that he kind of struggles at. Phoenix has never been good to Toyota. Bristol is up or down. We're going back to concrete in the spring, so we'll see how that goes. And then Circuit of the Americas, it's Bubba Wallace on a road course. What more do I have to say? Although he did get better near the end of the year, but we're not there yet. So these first 3 races, he gets on a hot streak. That team could be sitting pretty and have that momentum carry them through what's going to be a tough early stretch for them.
Yeah, I definitely think these first 3 races, he's done really well. I just think if he gets some decent finishing position in Las Vegas, I think he'll be okay. And then I think those races where he kind of struggles in, I think if he just prioritizes his finishing position,
mm-hmm.
he should get away. I won't say scot-free, but consolidating points in races he struggles in should be his main goal.
Yep. And on the other end of things, before we go to take a break, Chris, there are several drivers that are not very happy about how their season has started. Joey Logano, 2 terrible finishes. Michael McDowell, Michael McDowell, he's in 20th. He didn't have a good Daytona 500, but he did rebound, so we're not going to say him. Joey Logano, not in a good spot. Austin Dillon, I feel like this is just going to be a theme with him. He's currently 33rd in the points. He is 1 spot lower than David Reagan, who only ran the Daytona 500.
Yikes.
His start to the season has been abysmal. And if you want something worse, there was a penalty announcement for unapproved equipment on the cars of Ryan Preece and Noah Gragson. Guess where they are in points right now? Noah Gragson, 43rd, -6 points.
Jeez.
Ryan Preece, 37th, 0 points. Those first two races basically didn't even count for Stewart-Haas Racing. And Tony Stewart said, their last year was not acceptable. They make a serious rules infraction in a season where they've got to prove something. You're just behind the 8 ball. You're spotting the field 6 points in Noah Gragson's case. You just made the season so much harder for no reason.
Yeah. Big yikes.
Chris, what do you think of the penalties? Because it was a pretty big shunt for them. Noah Gragson, Ryan Preece both had improper air deflectors. Both were assessed the loss of 35 driver and owner points.
Well, I after I think it was last year, I'm no stranger to penalties kind of screwing up your season because Hendrick got nailed last year. I think it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was so no sympathy, to be honest with you. None at all. You get caught and you get penalized. It's just kind of my thoughts on it. Especially in NASCAR and Formula One, I don't believe in penalties.
Mm-hmm.
No, no, I mean it sucks for those guys' seasons. The Joey one I don't necessarily feel bad about. That's when it comes to engineering and stuff, that's not really the driver's fault. But Joey's gloves were definitely probably his invention, or at least he had to sign off on it. So
that glove thing is so weird.
I get it.
I don't. For those that don't know, Joey Logano was fined $10,000 for an improper glove. His left-handed glove was not SFI certified, and it was kind of a smaller. I think it was a smaller glove. No, it was a bigger glove, so it could block more air as it was
webbing
going around the.
It was
track.
Like a baseball. It was like a catcher's mitt in baseball. Between the pointer finger and, like, if you make an L with your thumb and your pointer finger, that was essentially like a triangle. Like he had that whole thing covered with fabric.
Yeah, you're not gonna get away with that. These drivers will do anything to get pole or to win, and that was one of the stranger ones. But no further penalty other than the $10,000 fine for Logano. But we are going to take a break. When we come back, IndyCar might be losing one of their longest running manufacturers. We'll talk about this on the other side of the break here on the Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
Well, what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back here on the Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Daryl, Chris, and Michael here with you on the Extra Mile. And hey, iSports Radio could not get it done without our very, very generous sponsor, and that is Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Jerky that is out of this world. Make sure you go to iSportsRadio.com and pick yourself up some Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. I'm going to do that as soon as this show is over because that jerky is absolutely amazing. I've had some of it. It is delicious. So go ahead and check that out. And that's not just a sponsor thing. It is genuinely delicious. So go ahead, check that out, iSportsRadio.com to pick up some of that. We're going to get into IndyCar now. Some news broke this morning that it's great for NASCAR, not good for IndyCar, as rumors are starting to intensify that Honda, which has been in IndyCar since 1994, is thinking of leaving the sport due to low ratings and low visibility internationally, and use Formula One as their open wheel marquee, and they're going to switch their North American racing prospects to NASCAR. I've heard 2026. Another article I read said 2027. And a lot of this is coming down to the rising costs and low return on investment in IndyCar. But fellas, there's another part of this as well when it comes to cost, in that when the 2.4 liter engines were canceled in IndyCar, Honda already had their engines ready to go. However, Ilmor, which is owned by Penske, and that's all what the Chevy engines are badged, did not have their engine prepared. So instead of delaying the 2.4 liter engines, the decision by the sanctioning body, which is now owned by Penske, was to cancel the engines altogether. I'll throw it to Chris and then Michael. That seems pretty messed up for one manufacturer to spend all that money and then you cancel the project allegedly because the boss's engine wasn't ready.
Yeah, and I think we all saw the conflict of interest coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was inevitable that, if you own a racing series, you can't have, sorry, you can't have a team in it. Common sense, I guess, prevails here. So I don't blame Honda one bit. And if I'm any other manufacturer, I'm, especially a potential new manufacturer thinking about coming in, I'm just not thinking about that anymore at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a, kind of shoot yourself in the foot situation, and they pulled the trigger today.
So I'm gonna definitely chalk that up to one of the biggest fumbles in modern day motorsports. Because it just puts your series in a very bad light. Like Chris said, if I'm a new manufacturer thinking about joining the series and I see that potentially you canceled engines we've been developing for years because Big Boss wasn't ready yet, I don't know, man. That doesn't look good to me. I think I'll go ahead and look elsewhere.
Now, obviously, all of this is alleged, but you look at it and on its face value, if that is true, that was such a short sighted decision, if that is accurate, because Honda has been in that sport for 30 years. I think they're one of the most synonymous names in American open wheel racing. To lose them, now Chevy has to make 27 to 33 engines. And by the way, that's not only primary engines, you have to make backup engines too. So go ahead and double that. And remember, these are internal combustion engines, which are going the way of the dinosaur, whether people like it or not. And to take the Chevy engines and prioritize them in that decision and cancel the whole project completely, if that is the case, that is Rogers' biggest mess up since he's owned the sport, and it may have just cost him severely.
Might have just cost him the sport.
Yeah, because I don't see Chevy sticking around. If Honda leaves, then they're on the hook for all these engines by themselves.
Well, if that's the case, they can essentially write their own check.
Yeah.
If they're the only ones manufacturing, they can say, "Hey, we need more," and there's nothing that can be done about it.
I mean, Chevy would take them over the barrel for licensing fees for engines at that point.
They should. Might as well, right?
Yep. But let's talk on the positive side about this for a little bit. NASCAR and the Steve O'Donnell and Steve Phelps, have been saying for years that a fourth manufacturer was coming, and it looks like they've got their horse. It took us a while to get there, but we've got that horse. No one has said this is in very early stages. It's out of the rumor stage to where major reporters can start hinting that it might be happening, which means if they're being told they can talk about it a little bit, that means it's about to happen. It would more than likely be the Accord in Cup, the Civic in Xfinity, and the Ridgeline in trucks if they put Hondas in all three major touring series. And my question for you guys is, what teams do you think will be the ones to jump over and join Honda?
Good question.
Well, like you were saying earlier, Stuart Haas is a easy first round pick there, especially when it comes to the bigger teams, because they're going to want a flagship team, so to speak. And by flagship, I mean 3 or 4 cars. There's plenty of one and two car teams, and I'm sure they're going to get some takers in that. But I would look at probably Stuart Haas to really be that flagship big, Joe Gibbs, Hendrick team for Honda. And Honda, I mean, they're massive. Honda could be what Stuart Haas needs to kick that team in gear, because Honda's coming from F1, where they've just won 3 championships in a row. They're not going to settle for what Gene Haas has been settling for.
Yeah, they're gonna.
Honda's going to come in and things are going to be different. So in that respect, I hope Honda comes in and says, we're cleaning house.
I think Gene's going to be forced to have to do some things to get that team straight. Well, I think Tony Stewart would take over the reins and be the spearhead of that, because I think at this point, Gene's name is just on the cars. I think Tony is the one doing the day-to-day running at this point. He kind of seems a bit disinterested, especially if the stories about him and Gunther falling out, if that went the way we thought or the way that it's being reported. But Michael, who do you think?
I will join Honda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a good question. It's a really big opportunity too, so I don't know. Part of me really wants to say front row, Or I'm sorry, what's the team that owns the 34 and 38?
Front
Front
row.
row.
You're right.
Oh, okay, I was right. Yeah, I would. They're getting faster and faster. I would say, hey, they could jump on that horse.
Well, they're getting some love from Ford now, though.
Yeah, so maybe not. But yeah, I don't really know who would make that leap. I'm being
I'm gonna
honest with
go.
you.
I'm gonna go back real quick to just Larry wanted a more explanation on that Ilmore Chevy situation. So so basically how that works is Ilmore is an engine company that is contracted to build the Chevy engines for IndyCar. So they are Chevy badged engines that are made by a third party company. I'm trying to think what would be. It's kind of like the Nike Fanatics jersey deal, if that makes sense, although not as poorly received as the Fanatics Nike jersey situation. If anybody's been following the rollout of the baseball jerseys, it's been bad. But it's basically Chevy has licensed a third-party company to make their engines, and that third-party company just so happens to be owned by the individual who also owns the sport. It's conflict of interest is what we would call it in my job.
Definitely.
Penske would have to fill out a second job form if he worked for us. But anyway, my teams, I would look at some Chevy teams that are down the order because Chevy, I think, is the manufacturer with the most bloat. So a colleague or a Spire that's looking to get out of that Tier 3 status and try to get on a Tier 1 level like Hendrick and RCR are on, I could see them making the jump to Honda when they come over.
I could see that, yeah.
So, and believe me, Honda is going to be, they're going to be writing some checks to get these teams to go over. So there might be a team we don't even expect to make that jump. You can take Roush Fenway, Keselowski. No, these are the teams you can take off the order. Roush Fenway, Keselowski, Joe Gibbs, and Hendrick. They're not leaving.
Everyone else is on the table.
Everybody else, I believe, is open season. The three I named are the flagships.
Did you say Penske?
Yeah, I'll throw Penske in there too. So RFK, Penske, Chevy, Hendrick, and
I mean,
Joe Gibbs Racing. They're not leaving.
So do you see 2311 as a potential?
I kind of lumped them in there with JGR, but
Oh, okay.
I mean,
and RCR. RCR is not going anywhere either.
RCR is not leaving Chevy. We already know that.
I don't know. I wonder about the RCR, how much commitment they're getting from Chevy. I wonder if it's enough to keep them there. I think they might be that team you don't expect that switches.
That's a bold prediction.
I'm willing to walk out on that limb, so.
He's willing to die on that hill.
Yeah,
but,
hey.
Yeah, I think your JGRs and 2311, Hendricks, your RFKs, and your Penske's, I think they're safe. I think everybody else, if Honda writes a big enough check, they're going to go. But it's basically turning NASCAR, which I find funny, especially when Cadillac replaces Chevy soon.
2025?
Yeah, probably 2025. Because, well, they don't have a car to replace the Camaro and Chevy.
So
the only car they really have
wing.
is... Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be the Black Wing, and then the regular CT, whatever. I keep calling it the CTS, but the CTV or whatever they call it.
Is it wrong that I'm kind of looking forward to that change?
No, I am.
Okay.
No, I think the Cadillac Blackwing looks awesome. I think that's a gorgeous car.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that.
The only thing is I don't know what they would do for a truck. Because Cadillac does not have a pickup truck.
Yeah.
So they'll have to figure that out. It's the CT5 Blackwing, by the way, for those that are asking. So I think you'll see the CT5 Blackwing in Cup. You'll probably see the base CT5 in Xfinity. And I guess the truck will stay Chevy because they don't have a Cadillac pickup. Unless they're going to put the Escalade on the Truck Series template. That would look weird.
Yeah.
But one last question for you guys before we go to break. Honda is really interested in a place where they can develop their hybrid tech. With Honda coming in, do you think we're going to get an announcement that the next gen car, which is already hybrid ready, is going to get a hybrid powertrain?
I would say so because I think it was inevitable anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And realistically, you know what I would love to see, and I know that the hardcore people are gonna disagree, but I would love to see pit lane electric.
You mean like the
and
IMSA?
yeah, and capped out, right? Get rid of speeding penalties. Right? Once they hit the line a certain point, their combustion engines shut right down, and by the time they hit the yellow line, their combustion engine is off. They're doing 60 miles an hour because I'm pretty sure that's like pit lane speed is like 55, 60 depending on the track. But just get rid of the stupid speeding penalties. You have the technology. Just get rid of it. It's so stupid.
I think at this point, if it is about safety, we should bring... I know people want to talk about putting it in the driver's hands, but if we're talking about safety, put the pits... It's beyond time for a pit speed limiter. I know the old fogies are not going to like this, but if it's about safety, put the pit speed limiter in.
Yep. The technology's there. Basically, every other racing series has that.
Yeah. But to listen to the Cadillac engine turning from electric to internal combustion...
and if you follow me on TikTok,
such a beautiful sound.
If you follow me on TikTok, you know how much I share that sound.
Such a beautiful sound.
Oh yeah, it certainly was.
Yeah,
I've listened to it a few times.
Oh, by the way, Daryl,
mm-hmm.
You know about Le Mans Ultimate, right? The game.
Yeah.
They have it in there.
Nice. Although I'm waiting for that game to develop a little bit more. It is definitely not ready for prime time.
Yeah, it needs to work. Admittedly.
Yeah. And as we sit here, how I think about it, everyone wants horsepower back in the Cup Series or in NASCAR in general, but especially the Cup Series. The only way you're getting that in the Cup Series at this point is if we go hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
The internal combustion and the ICE only engines are going the way of the dinosaur. There's just no other way to say it. Toyota is going to begin transitioning to where all their cars are just hybrid. There's no ICE anymore. Ford and Chevy have talked about getting rid of their ICE engines, although they were thinking of going all EV. A lot of the manufacturers are starting to walk that back, seeing how the EVs have been having massive problems when it gets cold. So I could see them going back towards the hybrid route as well, which I think the hybrid route is going to be the superior route, to be honest, given that you have the fuel, but you have the electric system that is supplementing that engine, and it's really extending the range of it. I think that's going to be the place, and then we'll probably transition to hydrogen from there, but that's me reading the tea leaves. But hydrogen, that's going to take a bit. But the main thing is, if you want that horsepower back, 675 base power engine, you add a 300 horsepower equivalent hybrid system, these cars are going to be moving next year. Except you're not going to run that system at Daytona or Talladega because you're going to kill somebody.
Agreed.
Agreed.
But do we get a push to pass? That is, those are questions for later. But we're going to take a break.
Put DRS on NASCARs.
Yeah.
Oh, God. And on that, we're going to swiftly move right along to, or actually, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Formula One has officially started their season in Bahrain, and an interesting team was at the top of the charts at the end of practice 2, a.k.a. not Red Bull. We'll talk about this on the other side of this break here on the Extra Mile iSports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports.
Well, 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 what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back here in the Extra Mile iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Daryl, Chris, and Michael here with you for this very last segment. We're going to talk IndyCar and get out the picks for nearest the win. The Bahrain Grand Prix is on Saturday this year because of Ramadan and because Formula One apparently does not know how to schedule. We will be starting the season with 2 races on a Saturday. So remember, it is Saturday for Formula One, not Sunday. I am definitely probably going to forget, but that means we had first practice for Formula 1, Formula 2, and Formula 3 all today. I did watch a little bit of that on F1 TV. Thank you, Chris. And it's interesting seeing them go from the high-powered Formula 1 cars to itty-bitty Formula 3 cars. The babies, as I like to call them. But we had our first couple of practices, and practice 2, the Mercedes-powered cars, or the Mercedes factory team, was at the top of the board, which gives everybody a little bit of hope. But, gentlemen, we all know qualifying is where we will truly know where the early pace of these cars are.
Yep.
Well, we will find out, won't we?
Yes.
So Michael's little joke leading into the break might lead to 24 consecutive times we have to listen to the Dutch national anthem next year.
Listen,
this year.
If I hear it for the first 3 times, I'm not watching Formula One.
You basically said that last year.
And was I wrong? Was I watching Formula One?
Barely.
Exactly.
Well, it wasn't watching anything really, wasn't it? Just watching Max win. It wasn't really competition.
Yeah, and I think that's, I don't know, in my opinion, that's pretty bad for the sport.
Yeah,
apparently Drive to Survive numbers are down.
Yeah, because nobody want to watch just Max Verstappen wins again. No, nobody wants to watch that.
I think, just Drive to Survive, though, I think they kind of, I think they got a lot of bad press when Max stopped participating. Because of the manufactured drama, I think people just were like, okay, I really don't have any interest in the manufactured drama.
It was better when they were just talking about the storylines from the year and took the drama from that. And also, it sounds like they cut a lot of stuff out. They didn't talk about the McLaren double podiums. I think Gasly had a good run last year. They didn't talk about that. So there's a lot of things that they just from the season that would be good stories that they're just not getting to. And a lot of folks are tuning out because of it. But maybe Drive to Survive has run its course.
It could have.
I think so. I think it's running towards.
Yeah. So Lewis Hamilton, George Russell were at the top of the board in practice 2. Fernando Alonso third, Carlos Sainz, Oscar Piastri for Ferrari and Red Bull rounding out the top 5. Max Verstappen was only 6th fastest, which is a weird phrase to say. 4/10 off of the 130.3 set by Hamilton. And Sergio Perez was 10th, 7/10 of a second down, but none of these times are going to matter until we get to qualifying 3 on Friday. Almost said Saturday. And that's when the true pace of these teams will be shown. Coming into the weekend, we also did get an update into the allegations against Christian Horner. He was found by an independent investigation to be innocent of the charges, so he will remain in his post in Red Bull Racing. That does not mean, and I want to stress this, that does not mean that the individual that made the claims was lying. This also does not mean that he didn't say some things that probably should not have been said. It simply didn't rise to the level of him losing his job. Is basically where we are.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. However,
it's neither guilt nor innocence. It's just, and the other thing to remember is this is just an internal in the company deciding whether what he did was if there's cause for him being terminated from his position. It was not an investigation into the morality of what happened, or anything like that. It was, did he violate company policy, which clearly they determined that he did not.
Now, also that company policy is one thing. There was allegedly conversation that there might be a criminal investigation in Great Britain, but not much has come from that, so we're not sure how this will go. But for now, Christian Horner staying on his post, and we will see if Red Bull can continue their domination over the next that they've had over the last couple of years. But we go into 2024, and it feels like we're all just trying to get to 2025 because the Hamilton to Ferrari news and how spicy that's going to be. But fellas, going into the season, we've got 14 drivers that are going to be auditioning for jobs basically this season, as over half the grid is up for contract renewal at the end of this year. So there are some guys. I think Yuki Tsunoda is one of them. Both the Haas drivers, Pierre Gasly, drivers like that, they've got to put on some good performances, or they could find themselves off their teams.
Yeah, I think this season is definitely put up or shut up. So we're definitely going to see a lot of desperation from some drivers as they try to get better seats and just try to stay into the series.
But hey, with jobs up for grabs, it can make for some exciting Formula One races. And if there's one thing we've needed in Formula One desperately, it's excitement.
Yeah. Yep, I absolutely agree with you.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, actually, it's better for nearest to win, actually. So we'll just save it for after that.
Okay. And actually, we'll start with nearest the win. It is Formula One and NASCAR this weekend. Chris, give us a rundown of the points.
All right. So point standing. So in first place, Ricky Keeler picked 2 consecutive second place finishers. Week 1, he picked Alex Bowman, and week 2, he picked Ryan Blaney. So that's a streak of luck, Ricky. Congratulations. You are about to get the Joey Logano treatment for the next few weeks, as these guys can attest.
Yeah.
You started off the season great, but I promise you it will get painful. So actually, so we go from Ricky Keeler with 4 points, and in last place we have Daniel Collins with 73. So if that tells you anything about how quickly these point standings jump around, in 2 weeks we have a 70 or a 69 point gap between first and last place. So you're certainly never out. So keep submitting those picks. So I'll just read off the top 5. So Ricky Keeler's 4 points. I'm in second with 17. Jennifer Bryant is in third with 31. Daryl, you are in fourth with 32, and my wife Stephanie is in fifth with 39. And Michael, just while you're here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You are in ninth with 47. And Daryl, Merriam is actually tied with Michael, so it's actually a tie for ninth.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
she was not very happy. She had Joey Logano, so she was not happy with 8 to go when he slammed it to the outside wall.
Joey Logano was actually the most popular pick, I think, or actually Brad, who didn't fare. Actually, Brad did worse, and 3 people had picked Brad last week, and 2 or 3 had picked Joey. But actually, something I wanted to. So we did the no risk pick this week with F1 being back. And this week, we asked, does Visa, Red Bull, Cash App, VCarb, whatever you want to call it, do they score points? Right? Because last year, they really didn't score points. And there's a lot of hype around them this year. So just out of curiosity, what do you guys think the spread was between, what do you guys think the spread was for the picks? On how many people you said yes, how many people said no. And the nice thing about the Google Forms is you actually get statistics right in the responses, which is pretty cool.
I'm going to say a good 60% said no.
Okay, so we had 11 responses. So Daryl says 60% says no. How many do you think said no, Michael?
I think about a good 40% said no. Oh,
All right. Well, out of 11 respondents, 2 people, or 18%, said Red Bull or Visa VCarb will not score points. So 9 of you, including me, says that VCarb will score points this week. That's a lot of faith in Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki.
I don't know. I just feel like that car is actually solid.
I think that car is a lot better than people think it is.
I think so too. And actually, I think the 3 of us all said yes, actually. Yeah, our only no's were actually Miriam and Ricky Keeler. So everybody else saying yes. So as we look ahead to, and we did not get responses from Daniel Collins this week, or I don't know who it is, but they submitted their name as Dave Blaney. So if you guys are listening, I don't know how to get the link out to you. I don't know where you guys saw it from. But hit up the Extra Mile Twitter at Extra Mile IESR and let us know how to get this link to you. Because we want you guys to participate. So get a hold of us and tell us how to get this to you.
Yeah, you guys have till Saturday, so you've got some time.
Yep. As the season goes on and we all get used to it, it'd be nice to have everybody in by Thursday when we record. It's nice to have it all read out. So this week at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Daryl is taking Denny Hamlin. I'm taking Kyle Busch. Michael is taking William Byron. My wife Stephanie is taking Joey Logano. Matt White is taking Ross Chastain. Marshall Young is taking Alex Bowman. Taryn Rodriguez is taking Kyle Larson. Miriam is taking Ty Gibbs. Jennifer Bryant made a great decision and went with Alex Bowman. Daryl, I sent some a not a popular pick.
I'm not. Look, she's making all her own picks. Ty Gibbs is not somebody I would have picked, but
so you guys are going to have a discussion after this ends.
We're going to have to talk about that one tomorrow.
Jennifer Bryant.
I'm going to have to coach her a little bit. I'm going to have to coach her a little bit on these picks.
It's good to know. I was afraid that you were colluding, so it's good to know. Like
we are not colluding.
My wife, it's fun having the ladies participate. Like it's fun having my wife do it too, and I'm not helping her at all. And so I was wondering if you'd be doing a little coaching. So
not
good to know you're not. So yeah, let's see. So Miriam takes Ty Gibbs. Jennifer Bryant makes a great decision, goes with a great guy in Alex Bowman. A little bias there, obviously. Ricky Keeler is taking Martin Truex Jr. and Corey Heffron, who is actually one of my coworkers. He was on vacation for the last couple of weeks, so he's just getting in now. He's taking Kyle Busch. We'll jump to the Bahrain GP. And remember, just to clarify this, guys, so you have to pick at least one driver from each team once per season. So, for instance, like Daryl picks Lando. So Daryl picked Lando, and now his McLaren requirement is set for the season. So he could go the rest of the season and not pick McLaren. You just have to pick a driver from one of the 10 teams just one time per season. So I hope that clarifies it a little bit. So Daryl takes Lando. Myself and Michael Ward with the last minute submission. We're both taking Daniel Ricciardo. My wife is taking George Russell. Matt White is taking Oscar Piastri. Marshall Young and Taryn Rodriguez are taking Max Verstappen. Miriam is taking Lewis Hamilton, so you maybe don't go so rough on her tomorrow, Daryl. Jennifer Bryant is taking K-Mag. That's a bold choice. I love it. Ricky Keeler is taking Lando, and Corey is also taking Lando. So McLaren is actually the most popular pick this week. We got 3 Landos and an Oscar. So, and then with the no risk picks, obviously we got 9 yeses, and Miriam and Ricky Keeler are the only people to say no. So, that was good for -5 points. Obviously, this is golf scoring, so you want the lowest points possible. So somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. So it's going to be fun to see how this shakes out. Either 9 of us are smiling at the end of the day, or only 2 of us are. And you're a house divided, Daryl.
Yep.
So that's nearest the win for this week, and just on Monday we'll get the next week's out, and yeah, it's been really fun this year so far. I like the new setup with submitting everything through Google Forms. It's just so much easier, and it's just more official, and we got the records dating back, not going through Twitter messages and trying to figure out and hit stuff. So I appreciate everybody's willingness to do Google Forms.
Yep, I'm just going to take a quick second to send this link to Larry B so you can get his picks in. And as we get ready to wrap up, remember that I'm at DK Jr. 12, Michael's at Michael_Ward 25, and Chris is at Fiji Sims. If you want to get and talk to us on the Twitter, make sure you keep it locked to our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and make sure to follow the show pages on Twitter and TikTok as well, and the iSports Radio pages on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, make sure to go to iSportsRadio.com, get yourself some merch, some delicious beef jerky, check out more about our shows, get involved in the forums, see our our iSports Radio Hall of Famers, which I am a esteemed part of, and more on iSportsRadio.com. You can also listen to every episode of every show that has gone on this week. And hey, if you missed any episode, check out the YouTube repository, which has a copy of every episode of every show we've ever done. So we're going to get ready to get out of here this evening. We are going to have a special guest joining us. A new recurring host will be with us next week. I'm going to make you wait to find out who exactly it is. But if you were listening, you may already have an idea who's going to be joining us on the Extra Mile. But we will, for Chris and Michael, I'm Daryl. Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the Extra Mile, and we will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.